Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to be able to participate at your event today, and I hope you all are well. When we look at Burma, there is no doubt that there have been dramatic changes in the past 2 years, and that there is an opportunity for further changes, and it must be encouraged. But the international community or the European Union have a tendency to highlight the positives while ignoring the important and harsh realities on the ground. There needs to be a balance between encouragement and continued pressure of various kinds. But the EU or the international community is not getting that balance right. There are still hundreds of political prisoners remaining in jail, and many of those who were released were only released conditionally. Many still face restrictions on travel, and almost all repressive laws still remain in place. There has been no constitutional change that reduces the power of the military and makes Burma more democratic. And also, another deep concern is the military budget, especially when compared to the budgets for health and education in the country. This gives a clear indication of how government priorities are. The EU lifted almost all sanctions on Burma, regardless of the fact that none of the benchmarks were met. One of the benchmarks referred in the Council conclusion was addressing the status and improving the welfare of the Rohingyas. This benchmark has clearly not been met, and in fact, the welfare and the status of the Rohingya has dramatically worsened in the past year following the communal conflict, which quickly evolved into systematic attacks against the Rohingyas. Burma treatment of the Rohingyas violates at least 8 international laws, treaty obligations, and international human rights guidelines. Burma 1982 citizenship law violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Convention on the Right of the Child, and international norms prohibiting discrimination of racial and religious minorities. Burma treatment of the Rohingyas violates UN definition of the rule of law. The fact that Rohingyas are effectively excluded from the citizenship is a clear violation of international human rights law. It is a fundamental principle that everyone has a right to a nationality. The 1982 citizenship law also violates the international norms against discrimination. While his visit to Europe, President Thein Sein said he has no plans to revise the 1982 citizenship law, stating that the laws intend to protect the nation. The prejudice against the Rohingya is a cancer that the government and the democracy movement failed to stop or confront. Now that cancer is spreading to the rest of the country. As we all are aware, that anti-Muslim prejudice is seen as socially acceptable by a surprising number of people in Burma. In recent violence, Buddhists have killed Muslims and Muslims have killed Buddhists, while those organizations and individuals responsible for inciting hatred and carrying out attacks continue to do so with impunity. The government of Burma has failed on every level to address the current crisis. By its inaction, it has allowed the current violence to continue and happen. It has refused to change its law, which underpin prejudice. It has failed to stop the incitement of hatred and violence against Muslims. When attacks have taken place, security forces have failed to stop them. Those responsible for inciting hatred and carrying out attacks have not been held accountable. The President and government ministers have failed to take appropriate public steps to challenge prejudice and have failed to implement any kind of effective communal projects to tackle religious intolerance and promote religious harmony in Burma. It is worrying because growing tensions and growing religious tensions are the biggest threat to peace and further transitions to democracy in my country. There needs to be an acceptance in Burmese society that prejudice exists and casual racism exists, and that in this kind of environment, intolerance can flourish, spread, leading to extreme violence. This applies not only to Buddhist leaders, but also to Christian leaders. Christian leaders must also confront anti-Muslim sentiment in their Christian communities, and also Muslim leaders must confront prejudice against Buddhists and Christians. Burmese society needs to decide what it means to be Burmese. The refusal of central government to accept Burma as multi-religious, multi-ethnic country and give ethnic people more autonomy over their own affairs is the root cause of the dictatorship in the country. In dealing with a situation like this in Burma now, it is very important to remember and understand the connection between why Burma has never known peace since independence, and why there has been military rule for decades, why there is the discrimination against non-Buddhist and ethnic people in Burma, and that there is anti-Muslim violence in Burma currently taking place. These all are the problems, and they are the different branches of the same tree. The current growing anti-Muslim sentiment in Burma takes place in the context of a general lack of religious freedom, which has been a policy of government and military for decades. Christians in particular have faced persecutions, which now the military-backed government use, and they have a view as non-indigenous for Christians and therefore unwelcome. If violence continues to spread, it would increase instability across the country, and there will then be a danger of military taking in and stepping in to seize power again, and urging, as they often did in the past, that they have to be in power as they can only hold the country together and keep law and order. When we are talking about human rights, it is very important for us to remember that there is no human right without religious freedom. We all have a right to believe or not to believe. No one should be killed because of our religion, our skin color, or our ethnic groups. It is very important that people who are standing up for human rights, they should remember religious freedom and should not exclude religious freedom from their human rights agenda. There are many countries with experience in addressing religious and communal tensions, and political leaders in Burma, government and opposition, have no such experience, and they need help dealing with this kind of crisis. The current violence, widespread prejudice, and complex historical background will make addressing these religious tensions incredibly difficult, but no matter how daunting it is, that this issue must be addressed. Britain, the USA, and the other countries with relevant experience should share knowledge and skills from their own country in tackling prejudice and communal tensions. Political parties involved in spreading racist and anti-Muslim information and inciting violence should not be eligible for participating in any kind of capacity building or other kind of assistance being given by the international community. And 1982 citizenship law should be repealed. Of course, while no one expects to have a miracle overnight, especially given the low base from where Burma started, but the fact that it's been 2 years since U Thein Sein became a president, there are still many problems on the ground. There have been no moves towards justice and accountability or any kind of truth and reconciliation process. We know from the bitter past that promises from the government of Burma are meaningless. The government of Burma must be judged by its action, not words. There needs to be an acceptance in Burmese community and in Burma that Burma is a multi-ethnic and multi-religious country, and that people of different ethnic groups and religions can live side by side, different but equal. Burma is still a very, very long way to go from genuine democracy, and we all need to work harder than before. So let's be strong and continue working to achieve peace, unity, equality, human rights and democracy in Burma. Thank you.